The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Overall rating, 4.5 stars. So it's nearly there. 10-word description. This book is filled with Hollywood glamour and true love. 5 things that stood out to me about this book. There was loads, but I'm going to stick to 5. Number 1. This book is about Monique, who has unexpectedly found herself writing a tell-all autobiography for famous old Hollywood actress Evelyn Hugo. In this story, Evelyn was famous throughout the 50s to the 80s, and then she came out of the public eye in the latter part of her life. Evelyn has employed Monique to tell her story to the whole world, but not the story that they've seen in the media for years, but the real story, what really happened, what was going on behind the scenes. So if you're like me and you love googling like old-time Hollywood stars and like looking at the real life pictures and real life stories and all the scandals that were happening in those days, then you will love this book. The book is told retrospectively through Evelyn's opinion, so we get to see her current reflection, but also the essence of the person that she was when she made those initial decisions. So we get to see her develop and her whole journey. Number 2. Evelyns' character is very complex. I've seen that other booktubers and bookstagrammers said that she wasn't very likeable, but not for me. I think it's because I just found her so intriguing. She explains how she ruthlessly manipulated the media into believing situations that she fabricated for her own monetary gain or for her personal well-being. So I found that so interesting how back in the day you were able to really manipulate the media, whereas nowadays you cannot be caught slipping anywhere because the shade borough will be onto you. And other people I've seen said that they were like getting bored of the marriages before the end, but one thing I really took from this is that this book isn't about her marriages, it's about Evelyn. It's about what she learned from each of those marriages. It's about why she was getting married in the first place. It's her experience, it's about what she learned. And I really liked her character. Likeable or not, I just found her so interesting. Point number 3. Fast forward to, if you don't want to hear the spoiler. I did not expect the queer romance trope that was in this. I really didn't expect it. It took me by surprise. I think everyone has done so well not to have any spoilers in all of their reviews and all of their pictures and videos that I've seen about this, so my bad, I am the first one to do it. I found the exploration of the LGBTQ+ community in those days so interesting. I absolutely loved the relationship between Evelyn and Celia. It was so romantic and just so reflective of the times of how in those days it didn't matter how famous, how rich or how talented you were, you still had to hide who you were, and not just from society's stigma, but also from like the risk of being seen as crazy or it being illegal. Just the fact that so many people had to hide themselves, and I know people are still doing that now, but even more so in those days. I just found it so interesting. It made me really reflect back and think there must have been so many celebrities, especially within the performing arts industry, especially within that type of life. There must have been so many celebrities that in those days had to hide who they really were and were in fake marriages, etc, etc. So really interesting, loved that part, but sorry for the spoiler. I was so glad that Celia and Evelyn kind of like made it back at the end, so I was very happy about that. Point number 4. A little bit of critique, just a little bit. The whole thing about Monique being mixed race, like why? I just think it was so unnecessary. It felt like it was just like added in at the last minute and not really explored. It's like Reid just kept on dropping little bits of it, but it didn't do anything, it didn't add to the story for me, so I just felt like it was a bit unnecessary. But she could have been mixed race. I'm not saying that you have that, if it's a mixed race character, it has to be explored, but I felt like she was trying to explore it and then not really getting anywhere with it, and it just was completely separate from the rest of the book, unless I missed something, so if I did, let me know. And just like the whole thing with Monique, like I liked how she learnt something from her relationship with Evelyn, but I just felt like the addition of her character and her own storylines didn't really do much for me. And the same way that the twist, like it was good, but I wasn't like, and I think it was meant to be a moment, but I kind of was like, oh yeah, could have guessed that that's what it was really. But that didn't make me like this any less. It was just that's the only reason it wasn't a complete 5-star, because I just feel like some of it was a bit like, didn't was unnecessary. Point number 5. Kind of leading on from that point, but in a more positive way, not a negative way. I really felt like I could have read a whole book on each of her marriages. I just find the whole era so fascinating and so interesting to read about. I just love a book that is like this tell-all book about a famous superstar. I really want like a real actress to come out with an actual autobiography like this. I just wish this was real so I could look up all the real pictures. But even though I did find it interesting, I'd still feel like there were some things that weren't fully explored, and I felt like I needed a longer book to do that. So I wanted them to look into topic of AIDS in more detail, the riots for LGBTQ+, or the ins and outs of domestic violence and sexism at that time. But then I have to be fair and think to myself that when you're writing a book that is trying to encompass someone's entire life with 7 marriages, with all of the detail that you have to have within that, it can be really difficult to explore all of those factions in detail. So I have to be fair. But overall, I absolutely loved this book. I really want some of my friends to read this so that I can speak to them about it even more. So if you've read this, let me know what you think. Did you love Evelyn? Did you love Celia? What did you think about them? What did you think about Harry's character? I thought that was really interesting, the difference between the men and the women. Are you like one of those weird people like me that like to look things up afterwards? Because I do, and I was trying to find like, is this actually based on a real celebrity? Like, and I found that there's like 2 or 3 that it's based on in general, so that was cool. I haven't actually read Daisy Jones and the Six, but I know that that is a really loved book by Taylor Jenkins Reid, but I haven't read that because I felt like I was too behind on that one and I just wanted to get straight to this one. But I know she also has another one coming out in March, so I'm going to pre-order that so that I've got it straight away, because I really enjoyed the writing style. I just got through this so quickly and I just loved it. Another thing to note is that it does have like short newspaper articles. Some people hate having mixed media and like, you know, when it looks like it's been torn out of a newspaper. Some people hate that. I mean, I'm not that bothered by it, but yeah, I know that for some people that's like a big pet hate. But so it does have that in there. So warning, if you're one of those people that doesn't like it, it does have that in here. But my favourite line in this was quite simple actually. Page 116. So this is where Evelyn is talking about herself with her second husband, I think it is. And she says, "Men were almost never with me for my personality. I'm not suggesting that charming girls should take pity on pretty ones. I'm just saying that it's not so great being loved for something you didn't do." And I just think that's a really interesting perspective, because a lot of the time people praise people, you're so beautiful, you're so pretty, and it's like, well actually, like, what about me? What about my personality? What about the essence of me? What about what makes me me? And yeah, I just thought that was like quite an interesting line, and it kind of stuck with me from it, because it's almost like your beauty can be your success as much as it can be your demise. You can use it to empower yourself, but it also can be used as a weapon against you, and I just really liked that. So yeah, I love this book. I'm definitely going to be suggesting it to people. So if you're like, you know, a bit of a gossip columnist and you love reading into things, this will actually be really good for you as well, because it gives you a lot of scandal. But also I think it's really good for the older generation who can kind of remember those times, or remember their parents speaking a lot about Hollywood glamour and things like that. I really loved as well how it noted or commented on how Hollywood started to change with the influx of drugs and things like this towards the 80s and 90s as well. And I would love a book that was written about that time. Well, I think that's Daisy Jones, isn't it? Maybe I need to read that. But anyway, thank you for watching. If you've read this, let me know what you thought. If you think I should read Daisy Jones, if you think that it is as good as this one, then please do let me know and I will read it. And I think that's everything I've got to say. Other than that, make sure you read it, let me know, and make sure that you've liked this video and that you subscribe to my channel and that you keep coming back for more down to earth book reviews with Memo Brown. I appreciate your time for watching this video. Thank you for watching.
You are a summer and after